Hey guys, my name is Morgan and welcome to today's video. I'm busy on my way to the Wendy house now and I need to get a few supplies to start some seeds. In today's video, I'm going to be starting some tomato seeds and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do it. Right, so starting things off, I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with these 200 cell trays. They work like an absolute treat. You can start so many seeds in here in such a small space, so I'm really enjoying these. I've got 2 here already and they're working extremely well. And then for the medium, so what I'm going to be planting the seeds in, I've got 1 bag of vermiculite, I've got 1 bag of some cocoa peat, and then I've got 2 bags of peat moss. So I'm going to be mixing up, there's a base, so these 2 go together and then these 2 go together. So this is going to be the base, which is some cocoa peat and peat moss, and then this is some cocoa peat and some vermiculite. So I'm going to mix up the perfect ratio, which is just 50-50 for the bottom, 50-50 for the top, and I'm only going to be planting around like 20 seeds now. So I'm just going to do a handful at a time just so that I don't mix any and then I don't use all of it. So yeah, that's the medium that I'm going to use. And then the seeds, I'm going to use a hybrid star 9009. This is a cherry tomato variety, so really keen to get those going. I actually have some seedlings here already of that exact variety and they've started and they're doing pretty well, so I'm going to carry on and I'm going to do a few of those again. So I'm going to bring you up a little bit closer and I'll show you exactly how I do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up my base first, which is going to be the 1 bag of the cocoa peat and 1 bag of the peat moss. So I'm going to mix it up in this bucket and I'm just going to do a handful of each at first. So this is what the cocoa peat looks like. It's very light, very fluffy, very good for getting some oxygen to the plants, letting them have some oxygen so they can breathe well. That's something a lot of people actually get a little bit like confused with, thinking that, oh, there's like no space, like where are the roots going to go? The roots actually love a lot of space. They like a nice aromatic, I think is the word, soil where there's lots of air and lots of actual space for them to go around and explore and set up a good root system. Yeah, we have the cocoa peat, also very light, very fluffy. That's why this is the base, because that's where all the roots are going to be going. So I'm just going to mix up this together, add a little bit more here. And there we go. Nice little mixture of some cocoa peat and some peat moss. Very nice. Okay, so I'm going to fill them up quickly. So I'm going to start here on this side. And I'm only going to fill up half of the cell because this is just the base. So I'm just going to put it in there, give it a little push down, and that's about it. And then afterwards I'm going to mix up the top ratio and then fill it up on the top. And then I'm going to plant my seeds. And then after that, I'm actually going to put some sieved homemade compost on top as a little bit of some added nutrients. And then I have a fertilizer that I'm going to use that's going to give them an extra boost to get them nice and big and strong. So when I transplant them out, they're going to do really well. So let me just quickly fill up all of these cells. Make sure to push them down as best as you can. Don't be afraid of making it too like dense, because this stuff, you can't actually make it solid. It always just falls back and goes back to a nice fluffy mixture. So by pushing it down, you're not actually taking away any of that air, you're just filling up the cell completely and really well, which is what you want to do, because if you only fill it like lightly pressing it down, everything at the bottom, there's no medium for the roots to go, which means the roots are technically going to stop growing. Like they're not going to want to explore more because there's nothing to explore down there. So it's good to fill up the cell completely so that you have roots that go all the way down to the bottom and you get the best out of your seedling. so now that we have our base done, and you can actually see a lot of the mixture coming out there at the bottom, which is very good because I'm glad that it's doing that. Means it's gone all the way down and all of the cells are nice and full all the way to the bottom. Now it's time for our top mixture, which is going to be a little bit of the vermiculite and a little bit more of the cocoa peat, peat moss, sorry. I get very confused, they look so similar. Okay, so now I'm also going to do a little bit of each. And this is also a very well draining mixture. It's also got a lot of air in it, and again, that's exactly what seedlings want. None of this has got any nutritional benefits. There's no nutrients in any of this. So if you grow with just this, your seedlings are not going to get very big because they're only going to have the nutrients from the seed leaves. So that's why I'm going to be using quite a bit of some compost and some fertilizer and whatnot, just to give them that extra little bit of help so they get nice and big and strong. The vermiculite looks like, it's a very interesting, it's almost like thin sheets of polystyrene, but it's not bad for the environment. It's not a like plastic or something. I'm not really sure what exactly it is. If I find out, I'll put a little caption there at the bottom just explaining exactly what it is. But vermiculite is extremely light. This packet is extremely light. And yeah, this is the peat moss as well. Okay, so now we'll just give this little mix up. I actually used too much in the base, so that's why it looks like I've got such a little bit here. You really don't need a lot. It's incredible how far these bags actually go. Okay, so there we have the top mixture. Put that in. Also give it a little bit of a firm down. Want to make sure that the entire cell is full as best as possible. You can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but if I push this down, you can see how it actually pops back. It's so fluffy. I can feel how it pops back. I don't know if you can see it, but it is extremely light and fluffy, and I'm really actually pleased about that, because most of the time previously I always used to just start my seeds in compost, in just regular homemade compost that I've made, and they did pretty well. They're doing pretty well. So I'm actually very excited to see what this mixture is going to do. Is it going to be better? Is it going to be kind of the same? Very excited. So stay tuned for further updates, further videos, some new videos with some cool updates showing you exactly how everything goes. You can also find me on Instagram at Morgan in the Garden. Got all kinds of cool content there as well. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give them a little watering in now, just to make sure that the cells are nice and waterlogged before I put my seeds in. It's always a good idea to do some watering before you sow your seeds, just so that when you plant your seeds, they have a nice surface, a nice welcoming home basically. You can put your seeds in, put like whatever compost or like cover them and then water them, but I just prefer to water the base, put my seeds, and then cover them up, and that'll be it. And then the next time, like maybe later today, I'll just give another water just to make sure that everything is fine. It is going to be quite warm today, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on them just to make sure they don't dry out, because if your seeds start germinating and they dry out, they're not going to do well. They'll probably die like instantly right there. So let's get some water in here and start these seeds. You can also see how well it drains. That is incredible. Very, very nice. Okay, so now for our seeds. I'm going to plant one seed per cell. I don't have a lot of seeds left, so I'm not going to be putting two and then thinning them out, because I don't really want to sacrifice that seed. So I'm just going to do one seed per cell. So now what I'm going to do is I have some 4mm sieved compost in this bag. So I'm then just going to put a light sprinkle on top, and that'll be our little bit of added nutrients plus the fertilizer, and it also just gives it a nice smooth look on the top. Now, because this compost is actually a little bit dry, I'm going to give it a bit of a water. I didn't know it was this dry. So I don't want this compost to be absorbing all of the water that I've put at the bottom. So I'm going to give them a little bit of water now. Alright, so now it is time for a little bit of fertilizer, and I'm going to be using the Organic Grow Power Frass and the Organic Grow Hydro Frass. This is a fertilizer of 10 plus species of insect frass. It is incredibly good. You can see how my seedlings are doing. These other seedlings that are a little bit smaller is because they died from the sun and I had to replant them. But all of these ones in the front here you can see are from the Organic Grow, and it is really a good product. If you would like to get some Organic Grow fertilizer for yourself, you can visit the link in the video description. Also, don't want to forget about labeling. So I just thought I'd mention as well, the whole reason why I made it so high and you can't actually see each individual cell is just in case there is some settling, then each cell will still have enough medium to be able to fall into those spaces that have sunk. And at the end of the day, you'll still have a full cell. So if I had to make this flat and there's some settling, they're going to sink down deep and it's going to take away some space from growing the plant. So I always just leave it nice and high so that if they're settling, it just falls down. Another thing I'd like to mention quickly is we are going into the beginning of spring only in September. So at the moment it is late winter and it is still pretty cold, but I have been looking at the forecast and the overnight temperatures are nothing less than 10 degrees Celsius. So that's pretty fun. These seedlings, these tomato seedlings have germinated when it was, I think the lowest was like 4 or 5. These ones should do just as well, seeing as we are getting a little bit warmer. And I'm also starting my own seeds because it is so satisfying to be able to grow something from a seed. And if these don't work, I do have a local nursery that I can just visit and buy whatever seedlings I'd like and then start from there if the seeds don't work out or if they don't come up or germinate. Alright, and that is all there is to it. That is how I'm going to be starting my seeds from now on. I used to just use the normal compost, but now I've got my vermiculite, my cocoa peat, my peat moss. Make a nice mixture and start your seeds in that. I hope you really enjoyed today's video and I hope you learned a little something on starting seeds. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day and stay active in the garden.